how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. This is a made-for-TV movie from 1981. It was directed by Frank De Felitta and stars Charles Durning, Larry Drake, and Tonya Crowe. Now, this movie I knew had quite a bit of a cult following behind it. A lot of people really liked this movie. I hadn't seen it before I watched it for this review, but that being said, I was skeptical. The idea of a slasher movie that's also a made-for-TV movie, those two things don't really go together. A lot of the cool stuff you can do in a slasher, they don't really like to put that on TV, but I watched it and I was pleasantly surprised. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's the best thing ever or anything, but it definitely does pull off more than you think it could, and there are some real interesting highlights in here. I will say, because this video is coming out around Halloween, we do have a really cool fall atmosphere, and there are some pretty cool night shots of like big empty barns, and they even go to a graveyard. And yes, there is a Halloween dance in here, and towards the end we get a pumpkin patch. That's pretty cool. Being a huge Halloween fan though, I do wish this element was pushed a little more toward the forefront, but whatever. Good, creepy fall atmosphere. And also, what a lot of people remember this movie for is it has a grade A scumbag jerk of a villain. It's this guy who winds up through vigilante justice killing this mentally handicapped guy, and it turns out no, he was completely innocent. When he gets off from his crimes, we get a bunch of talk about small-town politics and prejudice towards the mentally handicapped. It is super weighty, and as I said, this guy is such a real jerk, you really want to see him get his comeuppance, and that's what a lot of the rest of the story is going to be about leading up towards that. But as I said, I know this has a cult following, and I will say it is really good, but again, it's not perfect, and I do have to be critical in some places, and some of that isn't really the movie's fault. As I said in the beginning, you're doing a made-for-TV slasher. You really can't push it near as far as a lot of other slashers could, and in turn, there are some stuff that has to be off-screen, unfortunately. I could have gone for some Tom Savini effects, but whatever. And also, because it is a mystery, you don't really know who did it. The killer is off-screen a lot of the time, and I do wish, especially because you have this really cool Scarecrow mask, I wish he had more of a physical presence, but again, whatever with that. And lastly, I do want to say, the movie did move a little bit slower than I'd like it to, and I get, you know, old movies move slower, I understand, but the origin story and the trial, basically the whole first act, it's interesting and it's tragic, but it's not really scary, and when I want a big horror movie, I do kind of wish it was more in the forefront, you know? But like I said, these are kind of minor complaints, and I do know this has a big cult following, and I think that is because it was a made-for-TV slasher, and how much of a rarity that was. You know, a lot of people who really like this movie saw it on TV when they were kids. It's a made-for-TV movie, so it's appropriate for them, and scarecrows are scary, but they're not in-your-face terrifying, so I think because this movie was approachable for a lot of younger audiences at the time, why their older brothers were watching Jason, this is something that they could have, and in turn it became kind of a gateway movie. It's fun, it's not perfect, and I do wish, you know, like I said, I do wish this was more of a Halloween-y horror movie, but we do get some good atmosphere and some good thinking pieces as well, so I do ultimately really like this still. That being said, I do want to break down and analyze a few things. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to take a moment and look at a few plot points. I'll be trying to avoid the end though, so hopefully no major spoilers, But from here on out, let's do a bit of a deeper dive. We open up with this mentally handicapped guy named Bubba, and he's playing with a little kid. And they're both, happy, and they're good friends, and it's ultimately a positive thing. But the local mailman sees them and is not a fan of that. He actually thinks Bubba is up to something, and we'll learn a few things about him later, and maybe he thinks this because maybe he feels that he would have a more malicious intent if he was allowed to get too close to the child, but of course, he's not gonna say that. Well, he actually says, this guy's dangerous. He hasn't done anything yet, but one day he will, and we should put a stop to it before someone gets hurt. And it's that classic Minority Report thing. Look, he hasn't really done anything yet. He's not guilty of anything, and you really can't punish someone for a crime they might commit. Well, we then cut to a little bit later. The little girl wants to see a fountain in someone's backyard. When she goes into the fountain, she's attacked by their dog, and Bubba saves her and brings her to help. However, when you get this guy carrying a wounded child, the rumor quickly spreads that Bubba murdered her, and that's where we get the postman and his team going out for some vigilante justice. And I will say, Bubba decides to hide in the Scarecrow, and there's an absolutely haunting shot in this movie when Bubba's found out, and they look through the Scarecrow's mask, and you can see his eyes, and he is just terrified and scared. It is a really haunting scene to see just the fear in those eyes behind the mask. Well, they shoot him, and right after they shoot him, one of them gets a call on his radio and says, hey, turns out the girl didn't die, and when she recovered, told everyone that Bubba saved her. Well, that's about as opposite as what they could have expected. So now they've just killed the town hero. They put a pitchfork in his hand and say, he charged at us, and then we get a little bit of a court scene, and here's where you get some small-town politics stuff. The judge says, well, I can't disprove the story that he charged at you, and do I really want to punish these people because they're pillars of the community? Yeah, just because you're involved with the community, apparently that means you're immune to punishment. Well, the district attorney is obviously mad at that, and he says, if I get one shred of proof, I'm going to get you guys. So these four men have to lay low for a while, which is going to be hard to do when all of a sudden in one of their fields, a scarecrow is placed. The Scarecrow, a warning sign that someone is going to be coming after them, and that's going to shake a few of these people up, and some of them are even going to want to confess because, hey, it's better than being murdered by a scarecrow. But I do like that the Scarecrow appears as an omen before something terrible will happen. Again, I do wish we got more of a physical presence from the Scarecrow because a lot of the kills are off screen because it is a mystery, but I do like him just being there in his straw form to kind of be a warning sign. And I also like that when the kills come, a lot of them can be explained by an accident, and most people don't look into it, except the people that are a little too scared and have good reason to look into it, and they're the only ones that see the clues that something more is happening. But even then, who are your suspects? Is it his mom? Is it the district attorney trying to shake them up so they'll confess? Or is Bubba back? We really don't know, and it's a good bit of a mystery here. And it does play out pretty fun. It definitely is one of those movies that, yeah, it does start out kind of slow, but it manages to hook you and pull you in. And by the time you get to the end, it is pretty fun, Again, scenes like the pumpkin patch, the Halloween dance, a graveyard. It does get better, and there is some absolutely creepy moments. Again, with this mailman there's the Halloween dance is downright creepy. I do wish we got more of a protagonist in this movie, because the guy's mom or the little girl, those could be some really good protagonist characters, and I get that we're following this guy around, and the idea is that we hate him and want his comeuppance to happen, but I do wish we got more of a point of view character. That would have been nice. However, the little girl character is going to say that she does see Bubba, so that is a little bit of a mysterious warning there. Is she just a little kid, or did Bubba somehow survive? I do like that idea as well. Overall, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is pretty good. It is way better than your average made-for-TV movie, but it still is a made-for-TV movie, so don't expect anything as tough as Michael Myers, but it still does its job pretty well, and I did really like it. This new Blu-ray that just came out, Dark Knight of the Scarecrows, has both parts 1 and 2, and from what I gather, Part 2 was made way later, like 40 years after the first one. I am curious where they're going with that, and I hope to get to that one soon as well. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.